1 2 1 2. Welcome to HMG Podcast. Welcome everyone. This is your host Hashem Garrett. I thank you so very much for being here with me. And as usual, the first things first, what I ask is this. Please turn off that mic. I can't hear it. I can't take it. Can't take that thing. How you all doing today? I hope you're having a wonderful moment, right? And today I want to talk to you on the HMG podcast / experience. I want to talk to you about homicides. Yeah, I know it's not a pleasant story to talk about, but it's real. It's one of the top causes of death for young people between ages of 15 and 24. And so I want to just have a little conversation with you about homicide. I don't know what you know, and I want to kind of dispel some of the myths. I want to enlighten some people, and I want to have a real conversation. I don't know if many of you, I may have mentioned in one of my previous episodes, I talked about how I lost a cousin due to a homicide 17 years ago. But so he was sorely be missed. He was a victim of a homicide. And so, as I already mentioned, homicide is one of the top causes of death for people between a certain age group in this country. So we have to have this conversation. You know, when I would go into schools, and I still, as a consultant, motivational speaker, travel all in schools. And by the way, you can all find me on my website, HashemGarrett.com. You can reach me on Hashem_Garrett at Instagram and on Facebook. And if you can find me even on TikTok, on Tribe Garrett. Yeah, I'm doing TikTok. That's right. So listen, I want to talk to you about homicide, right? And I don't know if I don't think most people are really aware of the causes or the risk factors associated with homicides. You know, when I go into schools, I'll ask students, and I've been doing this for a very long time. I'll ask students, you know, what are the causes of HIV? And they can tell me, well, you know, what are the causes of cancer, right? What do we know? So they'll share, even smoking cigarettes or carcinogens, and HIV, it's unprotected sex and sharing needles. Okay, excellent. If you ask them about homicide, I get about 15 different answers. But the research shows that there are certain things that are certain risk factors for homicides. And so very quickly, let me just make sure that everybody's aware, right? The word homicide is the intentional killing of one person by another. Okay, so that's what homicide is, the intentional killing of one person by another. And so we have assailants or perpetrators. That's someone who attacks another person physically. All right, so that's the perpetrator. And then we have the victim, someone who is attacked and harmed physically. All right. And today I want to have a little conversation with you about, when you think about homicide, what in your mind is the narrative or the scenario that usually plays out in a homicide? So I'm going to read two stories to you, and I want you to tell me if story number one is what you envision a typical homicide to be like, or is it story number two? All right, so here we go. Story number one is this. At approximately 10:30 last night, two armed men in their mid-teens robbed the Harding liquor store at 342 Lakeview Street. In the course of the holdup, both of the elderly proprietors, Arthur and Judith Harding, were shot and killed. That is story one. Right? Two young teens walk into a store, and they're armed, and they kill the proprietors. That was a homicide. Or story two. Saturday evening, during a dance at Stephen Maxwell High School, a fight broke out between two boys. In the course of the fight, one of the boys was shot. He was pronounced dead on arrival at City Hospital. Police arrested the second youth and charged him with murder. According to witnesses, the fight was precipitated by a comment made by one of the boys about Friday evening's basketball game. Witnesses said both boys had been drinking. So do you think story number one is your typical scenario of what a homicide looks like? Or story number two, where you have the two kids arguing and words were exchanged and somebody was shot? Well, the reality is, what the research shows is many of us will envision one of those two stories to be a typical scenario for a homicide. And most of us might think, well, it's the robber. It's the person who comes in with a gun and, you know, robs a store or goes and, the gang related shooting and that kind of stuff. But the truth is, the majority of the homicides that we see are usually involved with people that know one another. So it's actually story two. Now, I wonder how many of you have ever read or heard news stories like this. I'm sure all of us have. And I wonder how many of you think that these are probably typical descriptions of homicide in this country. But one of the conversations is saying, listen, really, it's the interpersonal, the acquaintance. The research shows, according to the FBI uniform crime reports, it shows that the majority of people in this country who are harmed or killed or get into fights are harmed or killed by somebody that they know, not a complete stranger. Does the stranger violence happen? Of course, but is it as common as the interpersonal violence? Not at all. Not even by a long shot. More people in this country are harmed or killed by a family member, a friend, a classmate, a spouse, a neighbor, in-laws. But it's usually someone that they know, not strangers. And so part of the conversation tonight is to say, I know we've all been taught from such a early age to be careful of strangers and don't get in a car with strangers and don't eat candy from strangers. But the truth is, the research shows that it is not strangers that typically harm and kill people. It is interpersonal. It is acquaintance. And so I would encourage people to apply that same caution that they would have with a stranger to that caution to someone that they know. Don't assume just because you're in a relationship with someone, or don't assume just because that is your brother or sister or your coworker or your classmate or your next door neighbor, that it can't escalate into not only a fight, but into a murder, into a homicide. Homicide, again, is the intentional killing of one person by another. And hopefully, from us looking at homicide through a different lens and saying, well, I kind of see the validity in that argument that it does happen more with acquaintances. Well, what exactly is the precipitant? What leads up to the majority of all homicides? Arguments. Well, think about fights, right? Before somebody gets into a fight with another person, typically words are exchanged, right? And we live in 2020, this is 2022. And so now people just don't argue in person. Sometimes they argue via social media. And so I want to just have a conversation to say, listen, when it comes to arguing, we have to always remember, at the end of the day, an argument is just a disagreement, and it's okay. We can disagree. We can agree to disagree, right? You see things one way, I see it another way, I know I've heard the saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I would actually encourage you to say this. If you don't have anything nice to say, think of something. Yeah. Instead of not saying anything at all, if you don't have anything nice to say, think of something nice to say. Sometimes I've heard people say, just if you get into an argument, just walk away. Well, it wasn't your feet that really got you in a problem in this argument. It was your mouth. So as opposed to just walking away, how about we figure out how to resolve it? It may take some time. It takes a little humility, right? I know nobody wants to lose face and everybody wants to be the big person. Everybody wants to get the last word and all that. Well, for some people, they actually get the last word, and that's their last word that they're going to say while they're alive, because they become the victim of the homicide. Or it's their last word. They got their last word, all right, but it's their last words as a free person for a few years or a few decades. Oh yeah, they got the last word, but it was the last time that they were going to be walking, and now they're confined to a wheelchair. Yeah. So I don't think it's always important to get the last word, right? And I know we've often been told that, we need to learn how to just kind of like forgive and forget. Just let it go. Let it go. Well, forgetting is not an option. Forgiveness is an option, but forgetting is not an option. Maybe on another episode, we'll have a whole conversation about forgiveness. Because I did tell you before that I was shot multiple times as a teenager, and I forgave that teenager who shot me. I was 15 and he was 16. And I was shot at point blank range with a submachine gun. And every bullet that teenager fired that went into my body exited. And that's another story. And I'm going to talk to you one episode all about forgiveness. This should be like a whole series. I think I'll do that. But right now, I just want to say, listen, when it comes down to homicides, arguments plays the biggest role. Right? When it comes down to fighting and ruined relationships, it's the arguing, it's the words. Words get exchanged and in the heat of the moment, right? And we say those things, and then we think if we magically just say, I'm sorry, all is forgiven. I don't think so. That doesn't work. If I just say I'm sorry, then we'll just sweep it under the rug, and we'll pretend that I didn't just talk about your mother and talk about you this and talk about you that. Maybe if I say I'm sorry, maybe I'll make it all better. I don't think it works that way. So I'm just imploring you to think more before you speak. They say the tongue is one of the smallest muscles in the body, but it does the most damage. We have got to control the words that come out of our mouth. And at the core, it's really about controlling our temper. Right? But the mouth gets us into a world of trouble. I've often said, maybe the great one up in the sky, maybe he blessed us with 2 ears and 1 mouth, maybe because we're supposed to listen twice as much as we speak. Some of us just talk too much. And here it is me talking into a microphone. But some of us just talk too much, just don't know when to stop talking. I've been in classrooms and I've been in, homes and family members are arguing. Somebody's like, just shut up. Just stop talking. Why don't y'all just stop? And that is so true. If one person by definition just stop talking, the argument by definition is over. Why? Because it takes at least 2 people to argue. Just stop talking. Listen more. Take a deep breath. Calm down. Let's put things into perspective. We have to learn how to listen a little bit more effectively. We have to learn how to control our temper. We have to learn how to control our tongue and the words that come out our mouth. And we have to be careful about saying things like, I don't care. It's a loaded statement. Because I think with the whole iceberg theory, what we see on the top is no indication how deep something is beneath the surface. So even when we say things like, I don't care, I don't know if that's always accurate. Well, I can say maybe you don't care in that moment, but the bigger picture, and then you back saying, can you forgive me? Well, I thought you said you didn't care. Yeah, I know, I was caught up in the heat of the moment. Don't let what they used to say when I was a kid, don't let your mouth write a check that your ass can't cash, right? Don't say it now. Don't say it, because you be done said and ain't no turning back. So you just gotta take a deep breath. Talk less. Talk less. Listen more. Use your words sparingly. Use your words, be wise. Measure 30 times, then cut, right? You got 1 piece of wood. You got to measure 30 times, then cut. Think before you speak. Because once it's out there, it's no coming back. So I have to think. And so I just want to have a conversation with you today about homicides and about controlling our tongue and the anger and the words that get exchanged. And, sometimes when we have arguments, it's like a tit for tat. They yell and sometimes we yell, right? And, not everybody handles arguments the same way. Some people, if you yell at them, they're not going to yell back. They want to fight. Now they want to hit. Who you think you're talking to? I'll punch you, right? It gets real physical. Some people, they'll get into a whole shouting match, right? Some people yell, they'll yell back. Some people curse. Oh, wait a minute. So you yelling and cursing at me? I yell cursing. You a bitch. You this, right? And it's a whole back and forth. Some people like, I don't know who you talking to. I'm not a child. And I don't, and from that argument, it fly off the handle. Many of us are guilty of it. So we just don't know how people are going to respond. Sometimes we don't even know how we're going to respond if somebody yells and curses at us. We get into road rage, and you see it all the time. People get into arguments over this or that. I mean, you never know what the argument is going to be about. You don't know how it started, but we know how it ended. This person was killed. So the reality is people in America are victims and are perpetrators of homicides. And the statistics show, the research shows, it is between people who know one another, not strangers. It's not people are not dying in the homicides because of the commission of a crime. No, it's just interpersonal, occurring between two or more persons, but limited to a small group. That's interpersonal. And so we have to learn those interpersonal skills and learning how to resolve things. So that's what I do. I go all over the place, and we talk about conflict resolution through forgiveness. Because forgiveness is a key component to it. And I'm not forgiving you for you. I'm forgiving you. I am forgiving you for me. This is actually a selfish act that I'm forgiving you. I am going to forgive you so that I don't do something stupid that's going to affect me. See, that's why I'm forgiving you. I'm not really trying to be the bigger person in this moment by forgiving you. I am forgiving you so that I can go home and do whatever I was trying to do. But see, the where the rubber meets the road, where it gets real difficult, we have a hard time forgiving, is sometimes when you feel like, I don't have anything to go home to. I don't have anything to live for. And this is where we find a lot of young kids and a lot of, certain adults, they'll go all the way in the argument because they feel like, I don't care about my life. And so if I don't care about my life, then they can definitely take your life. And if it means that they die in the process or go to jail in the process, in that moment and how they were feeling and looking at their situation, they said, you know what? So what? I feel like I'm at the bottom anyway. And they say when you're in a ditch, stop digging. Well, sometimes people get in a ditch and they just keep digging themselves into a hole. They thought their problems was bad. And now they got to stand before a judge or, and the judge says, all right, now I'm sentencing you to death. I'm sentencing you to life in jail without the possibility of parole. I'm sentencing you to 25 and 80 years. And they said, damn, I thought it was bad before. I really made it worse for myself. And so that's the conversation, is just saying, listen, learn how to forgive. And if you ever get to that moment where you feel like, taking somebody's life, and I know these are usually not premeditated, it's in the heat of the moment, but just always remember, you are special. And I'm going to close the show like I always do. You are special. You are rare. You are unique. And whatever is rare and unique has enormous value. And it is the same with you and myself and your children and your parents and your spouse and your ex-spouse and your girlfriend and your ex-girlfriend and your classmate and your boss and your employees and your coworkers. We are all special. I know sometimes they get on your last nerve and you can't stand them. And I know, and your sister and your brother and your aunt and this, I know the list goes on and on. I get it. But we're all special. You're loved. Just control that mouth of ours. Say things like, you know what? I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? I apologize. I'm working on being a better person, everybody. I hope that's the same for you. I know sometimes we get so caught up in going to the gym. I know we get caught up in, generational wealth. And I know we get caught up in, this and that. But just remember, continue to improve upon yourself. You can do it. Now, and I hope that one day we get a chance to just say, yo, I'm in a better place than I was, And so listen, I love you. Stay well. You are special. Take care, everyone. HMG Podcast signing out. Peace.